It was May 1940, and Europe was standing at the precipice of chaos. A continent engulfed in flames, trembling under the unstoppable march of Adolf Hitler's armies. In just a matter of weeks, nations had fallen, defenses shattered, and millions of lives were caught in the whirlwind of war. Belgium had surrendered, the Netherlands had fallen, and the French military, once considered formidable, was collapsing under the speed and precision of the Blitzkrieg, a strategy that combined armored tanks, mechanized infantry, and relentless aerial bombardment in a way the modern world had never witnessed. Across the northern plains of France, roads were clogged with retreating soldiers, refugees, and the remnants of artillery units, all moving as if the very earth beneath them was trembling with fear. Smoke rose from bombed towns, fires devoured villages, and the cries of the wounded echoed across the fields like a haunting symphony. Among the chaos, the British Expeditionary Force had arrived to support the French, to bolster their defenses, and to stand as a bastion against the tide of German power. Yet within weeks, they found themselves encircled, trapped, and pushed relentlessly toward the northern coast of France, toward a small, seemingly insignificant port town called Dunkirk. Nearly 400,000 soldiers, British, French, and Belgian, were stranded between an advancing German army and the cold gray waters of the English Channel. The horizon offered no salvation, only the endless expanse of the sea, punctuated by smoke, fire, and the distant rumble of enemy tanks. Every soldier knew the stakes. Every man understood that surrender meant almost certain death or captivity under the Nazis. And yet even in that terror, courage flickered, fragile but unyielding, waiting to be ignited by hope. The beaches of Dunkirk stretched endlessly, flat and foreboding under a sky streaked with smoke and the contrails of diving aircraft. From above, the scene resembled a chaotic mosaic of khaki uniforms, weapons, and tents abandoned in haste. The smell of burning fuel and gunpowder mingled with the salt and brine of the channel, a pungent reminder that danger lurked both in air and sea. Soldiers formed lines that seemed interminable, clutching rifles, waiting for rescue, and clinging to the fragile hope that England had not forgotten them. Each man carried his own story of bravery, loss, and longing, memories of home flickering in the back of their minds, even as shells exploded nearby. Some whispered prayers, others screamed in frustration or despair, their voices swallowed by the roar of artillery and the whine of dive bombers above. Officers tried to maintain discipline, shouting orders that were often drowned in the cacophony, but the order itself had begun to erode under the relentless pressure of war. Yet amidst the fear, a sense of unity emerged. Men shared water, offered comfort to the wounded, and helped comrades board rafts and boats that might take them to safety. Every act of courage, no matter how small, became part of the larger tapestry of survival. Back in London, Prime Minister Winston Churchill faced a crisis that threatened the very existence of Britain's war effort. News from the front was grim, reports painting a picture of rapid collapse and encirclement. The British Army, the pride of the empire, was cornered, and the morale of the nation teetered on the brink of despair. On May 26, 1940, Churchill made a decision that would define the spirit of Britain for generations: Operation Dynamo. The mission was audacious in its simplicity and terrifying in its execution. Every vessel capable of floating, from warships to ferries, fishing boats and small pleasure craft, would be called upon to cross the channel and bring home the stranded men. Orders went out. Radio broadcasts announced the emergency, and ordinary citizens readied themselves for a task that defied imagination. Across the English coast, fathers, sons, and brothers prepared their vessels, some having never left their harbors, yet all willing to risk life and limb to rescue strangers across the sea. These men would come to be known as the little ships of Dunkirk, heroes whose courage would become legendary, yet whose actions were born not from glory, but from the simple conviction that lives must be saved. Meanwhile, the situation on the beaches worsened by the hour. German aircraft patrolled the skies, their dive bombers releasing destruction upon the trapped soldiers below. Every explosion sent sand and debris flying. Bodies were torn apart, and the cries of the wounded echoed across the fields like a haunting symphony. Medical officers worked tirelessly, improvising with torn uniforms, bandages, and whatever supplies they could salvage, praying that help would arrive before the casualties overwhelmed them. Soldiers dove into the shallow waters to escape burning wreckage, dragging friends and comrades to any semblance of safety, often only to find themselves in the deadly reach of the next wave of bombs. Yet even in this chaos, humanity persisted. Strangers comforted each other, shared what little rations they had, and carried each other when strength failed. In those moments, the barriers of rank, nationality, and regiment dissolved, replaced by the raw instinct to survive and to ensure the survival of one's fellow man. As the first rescue vessels arrived on May 27th, a fragile hope blossomed. Soldiers ran into the surf, waving, cheering, and crying out, desperate to reach the safety that shimmered across the waters. But joy was fleeting. German bombers swarmed, engines screaming, dropping bombs with lethal precision. Ships were set ablaze, soldiers were thrown into the waves, and the screams of men echoed like a chorus of desperation. Yet the British Navy persisted, sending destroyers, minesweepers, and small civilian vessels into the inferno again and again, guided by the unwavering belief that lives could be saved. Each crossing was a battle, a gamble with death, yet the boats kept coming, carrying hundreds of men, each a miracle in itself. Ordinary people, fishermen, merchants, and adventurers became warriors of the sea, risking all to bring their countrymen home. Every journey across the Channel was a testament to courage, to faith in humanity, and to the indomitable will to survive. By May 30th, over 120,000 men had been rescued, yet thousands remained. The beaches were littered with wreckage, debris, and the bodies of the fallen. Smoke and fire darkened the sun, turning day into night. Men crouched in the sand, exhausted, hungry, and terrified, yet clinging to the hope that they too would be saved. Soldiers who had gone days without sleep or sustenance leaned on each other, sharing stories, prayers, and memories of home, drawing strength from the bonds forged in the crucible of war. Every small act of courage, every hand extended to a wounded comrade became part of the larger story of Dunkirk, a story of survival against insurmountable odds, a narrative that would echo through the ages as proof of courage, resilience, and the unbreakable human spirit. The evacuation continued relentlessly, as waves of soldiers pushed themselves into the water, their boots heavy with sand, their hands clutching rifles, helmets, and the faint hope of life.
The little ships crossed the channel over and over, their decks crowded with men soaked from head to toe, their eyes reflecting exhaustion, fear, and gratitude. Each crossing was a battle with death, as German dive bombers prowled overhead, engines screaming, dropping bombs with brutal accuracy, and the water erupted in fire and debris. Yet the courage of civilians and naval crews never faltered. Fathers, brothers, sons, and strangers alike became part of a heroic effort that defied strategy and logic. Some of the vessels were small fishing boats, fragile against the waves, yet they carried men to safety, sometimes hundreds at a time. The sound of engines, splashing water, and shouted orders became a symphony of desperation, orchestrated by hope and unwavering determination. In the midst of this chaos, stories of human endurance multiplied. Soldiers helped each other climb aboard rickety decks, sharing blankets, first aid, and encouragement, even